Hello, and welcome to That's Just Human, a podcast that explores all aspects of being human, living in a human body, and having life experiences. I'm Elisha Light Angel, your host, and by day I'm a massage therapist. And just like you, I also happen to live in a human body and have a plethora of human experiences. And I'm doing a solo episode today. So today I'm really want to delve into just the concept of what it means to be human in general. That we inhabit this body. So, we come in, I believe, as a soul inhabiting a body, and then our body is like this vehicle that carries us through life, if you will. There's shows out there, and I wish I could remember the name of this one I watched, but people came from the future and they were able to travel into the past. But the only way they were able to do this is to take over somebody's body. So if you look at some of the shows, some of the movies that have come out that kind of embrace this concept of jumping into another body and then getting to experience what that body is like while trying to also take control of it, that is kind of how the body is a vehicle. Yet being in the body contributes so much to our entire life's experiences. The ability to grow from being young. I don't know about you, but I grew fast. And when a child grows fast, they have growing pains. So it might be their knees or their elbows or something that starts hurting. And that's because the bone is literally growing so rapidly, it causes a physical pain. Side note, hint, if you are a parent of a child experiencing this and you get some liniment, think Tiger Balm, Icy Hot, BioFreeze. There's a bajillion different brands out there, doesn't matter which one. Rub a little bit on the area and cover it with a towel. This will help to dissipate the pain of growing pains. There might also be other growing pains that you experience in life that aren't necessarily joint pains from bone tissue growing too fast. There's growing pains whenever you're having to learn a new skill and you haven't quite got it yet. And there's a frustration in the process of being from where you are into where you want to go. There's growing pains of entering into new relationships, entering into new jobs, entering into any kind of a new situation where you have to go about a certain period of time to really settle into it. I would consider that a growing pain. It can be applied to all sorts of areas of our lives. Growing pains also could be seen as some of the lessons. So we have lesson after lesson after lesson after lesson in this earth school, if you want to call it that. I like to call it that, or when I'm having a challenging time in life or just downright hard and I don't know how I'm going to make it through when I am in the drudge of those moments. If I have the ability to pull back and say, this is a lesson, what do I need to learn from it? Especially if I'm getting into my thoughts. So our human brains like to mull over everything. They like to come up with reasons and explanations for things. They like to know as much as they can. They like to create stories. And often we create stories in our mind, and then those thoughts start to loop over and over again. I'm not saying everybody does this, but I have a feeling at least once in your life, you've probably thought looped about something. Maybe you had a situation where you keep looping a conversation over in your head because you're wondering if what you said during that conversation was the right way to say something, or what is this other person thinking of you? And every time that conversation comes back around, you create a new addition to the story, a new thought on what it possibly could mean or could be. to the extent of even inserting what you think the other person thinks, even though you may or may not have evidence of that. It becomes your own truth as this thought loops over and over again. So these are challenges, hurdles to get over, things and lessons because we're mulling over them, so there's got to be something there. Finding yourself in an observer's seat of your life can help you to make a pause, just taking a deep breath, asking yourself, is what I'm thinking true? Do I have evidence of this? Is there something beyond this actual situation that I need to learn? And start answering the questions or searching for answers for what can I learn out of this, instead of inserting what you think other people think about the situation. It helps to reframe something that's happening in a new light. And when you reframe situations in a new light, it helps you to process better, it helps you to learn, and it helps you to grow. We are constantly growing. So if we're not physically growing, then we're mentally growing, we're spiritually growing, we're emotionally growing. It is a nonstop process from the time we're born until the time that we die. All of life is experiences after experiences. It's moments built upon each other. And through these experiences, we create our own ways of living, being, coping. They contribute to making us the people that we are, the people that others know us to be. They influence our behaviors and the patterns that we live out. Experience is what life is all about. You're here to experience. Part of having that experience is getting to experience contrast. Everything in our entire world is about contrast. So you have dry and you have wet. If you were always dry and you had never experienced being wet, you wouldn't know that you were dry. You have all sorts of different contrasts in light. We have night and we have day. If it was all day or it was all night all the time, then knowing the other would be unimaginable because it wouldn't exist. So the contrast gives us something to compare by, gives you the ability to really search deeper within yourself and figure out where on that contrast you may like or not like. Contrast can be in the different clothes that you wear, experiencing different styles, allowing you to adorn your body the way that you want because you've had enough different experiences being inside different clothing, and you know how each of these articles of clothing feels on your body, or how they make you feel when you look in the mirror at yourself or walk around. Have you ever put on a suit? A suit makes you feel a little bit more powerful. There's just something about it, by adorning that as an outfit, as opposed to, in contrast, putting on shorts and a t-shirt. You feel more loungy. Or heck, even PJs or a bathrobe, even more loungy. Whatever it is, there is a opposite contrast which allows you to have the experience and deepen your knowledge. When you have deepened your knowledge on the contrast, while you may not logically sit here and have super deep thoughts about everything in your life that is a contrast, it is also those experiences that rise up to provide the different contrasts for you. So it could be living and experiencing life when you're young in a family that is of a certain monetary status. So you grow up really, really, really poor, and you know what that feels like, and you know that when you get older, you don't want to have to experience things like your electricity being cut off, not having food in the fridge, or having toilet paper, or basic necessities that are available for living. And so due to that, you work really hard in your adult life to ensure that you don't live the same life in your childhood. By contrast, see, you had this experience, it developed something inside of you to try to push for something different. Then when you get later on in life, perhaps you're a stickler for savings, or you have learned how to make massive amounts of money because it became a mission of yours due to the upbringing that you had. And now you get to experience what life is like when you do have enough money to meet all of the basic needs and then some. It's a contrast. You're living both experiences, but it took you time. It often is like that in life. We may go several years. We may go half of our life. We may go most of our life experiencing things one way, and then something happens. Something changes an aspect of the way that we think. Something changes the way that we see the world and have developed our worldview, and then we change. That's how we grow. So the contrast provides us something for more growth, all in that experience of being human. Lessons come hard. Actually, our biggest growth happens out of some of the hardest lessons. And some of those hard lessons may take years and years to recover from. It can be different traumas that you may have experienced in your childhood, adolescence, your adult years. Trauma can happen at any point in life. And each of these traumas gives you an experience, will give you a contrast once you're in a different place, or maybe it's different from where you once were. And then that can give you some growth when you move through it. Growth is such a pivotal part of having the human experience, because what's the point if you're not learning anything and you're not growing? There's just the experience? Sure. When it comes to contrast, you can think back to any points in your life where you might have thought, I wonder what it would be like to have this experience. A lot of times it can be a driver. I really want to experience a concert. So your first concert, you get to be super excited. You got this new ticket. You're having a brand new contrasting experience to never having gone to a concert. But you're putting yourself in that experiential situation. Maybe you live in the city, and by contrast, you want to go camping so you can experience what life is like outside of the city, just in nature, and be able to experience both different contrasts. Growth also happens through a series of lessons, and I think that we are definitely here in life to be learning lessons always. These lessons repeat in patterns, so if you don't get the lesson the first time, and I don't think that we necessarily do, for me anyway, I noticed something has to happen at least 3 times for me to recognize, oh, this is a pattern. It feels like an experience. I am in the situation, having the experiencing, going through whatever is happening, riled up by the emotions that that experience brings. But if it's the first time you're going through a breakup, or first time having a new job you have to learn, first time getting in trouble, whatever is the the first time, it's not recognizable. The second time you go through a pattern, I'm going to use relationships because that's been a really big lesson for me in life. And so it's something that I can refer back to. Lessons of having the same situations happen, relationship after relationship. First time, okay, this is just how relationships are. Second time, wow, this has happened again. And I guess this must be how relationships are. See, this is now forming the viewpoint that I believe that relationships are a certain way. Third time something happens, maybe I'm starting to get it. Maybe I don't. So again, the same style of relationship, attracting the same type of a person, the same type of circumstance, till it gets to a point where I'm standing back and going, hold up. How is it that for me, all of my relationships are like this? But I've either listened to podcasts or I've talked with friends and they're not having these experiences in their relationships. So maybe there's something for me to back up and look at here and recognize as a pattern in my own life. If you see a pattern happening in your life, if it's happened at least 3 times, that's a pattern. That means that there's something for you to evaluate, whether it is the way you see the world, a belief that you're inherently clinging to, a frequency that you're putting out there and attracting the situation and people to your life. There is something to be evaluated so that there can be an internal change that is made. I don't know what it is for you. I can just tell you that this happens in life all the time. And then we grow and we change and we shift because life is about having lessons. Sometimes they're easy, sometimes they're hard, but getting through them is really what matters and being able to grow. Ultimately, I think life is about learning how to embrace all of the challenges that come up, all of the different things that might rock the boat that we're in. When things are going well, when things are status quo, it's easy. You just kind of go about doing this, doing that, but then something comes along and it throws your entire world out of order. Maybe it's a death of a loved one. It is losing a partner in a relationship, somebody that you really loved. It's having to deal with a whole myriad of situations. So, yeah, I am looking for more people to share their experiences, your different emotions you've felt around those experiences, maybe some of the contrasts that have really stuck with you, and let's just learn together how to be as open as we can to what other people are experiencing in their life, because it's different than what we go through experiencing in our own lives. And I really believe that by getting to hear as many different points of view helps us to open up to being more empathetic and compassionate toward one another. And Lord knows we need more empathy and more compassion in this world, because when it comes down to it, us being here for each other, creating little communities and people and support systems that we can rely on in our time of need, and then being able to be that support for somebody else when they're in their time of need. I think that's a pivotal, essential part of being human and existing. And I'm hoping that by putting this podcast out there, that it can just help your viewpoint and also share cool things that you may not think about in life. So if you are interested in sharing something from your life story with us, please fill out the form that I'm listing in the show notes and description box. And if you're still with me, please hit subscribe on YouTube, follow, share any of my episodes, and help me just get the word out there on embracing humanness that is yours, embracing my own humanness. Let's all just embrace the human that we are and live life without guilt and without shame of just being and going through some of the things that we go through, because quite literally, as my podcast is named, that's just human, and it's just a human thing to have all of these different experiences, to have all of these different emotions. And I want to get into as many as we can. And on that note, I would like to remind you to be true to who you are, be kind to everyone, and remember, everything is part of the journey.